Okay, so I'm going to quickly introduce Arcui Usoara. So he's the founder and CEO of Ichilus. So Arcui did a office hour for us earlier. So I'm sure a lot of you really benefited from that. So when he did one for go-to-market and scale. So this time he's going to be doing a session for us on marketing and growth. So Arca is the founder and CEO of Ichilus. It's a brand strategy consulting company. He has generated over $9 million in revenue for impact-driven founders. He specializes in transforming brands and fostering authentic connections that empower entrepreneurs, investors, and leaders. He's a fractional chief brand officer. He's a brand strategist. He's a podcaster, author, and also a dog rescuer. So I'm going to hand it over to Arcui because I think he has a short presentation for y'all, and then y'all can ask him any questions that you have related to your company. So feel free to ask him what you really want to find out about marketing and growth, which is related to your company. So don't feel shy. We're very fortunate to have gotten his time. If you have to pay a lot of money to get an hour of Arcui's time, so he's come and been very generous with his time for you during this session. So please make the most of it, right? Don't waste the opportunity to find out and ask him more. So Arcui, over to you.
Thank you, Armi, and it's so good to be here once again. I see a couple of familiar faces and everything. So here's what I'm going to do. I generally prefer having more one-on-one conversations, making sure I can actually connect with you and speak to you. But Armi had sent me a couple of questions, so I'm just going to introduce a small model to you. It's one of many models, and you don't have to depend on it. It's not a framework, but rather it's a way of for you to just go about thinking. So I'm just going to do a short presentation. It's not even 5 pages, and once we go through that, we'll just get back to more of an AMA conversation. So with that, I hope you all are ready. Let me just share my screen. And yeah, so let me know if you guys can see my screen. Just give me like thumbs up or something. Awesome, great. So yeah, this is the secrets to seamless scaling, which is one of the main things we'll be talking about in this overall presentation. Now, before that, who is this charming guy you're learning from? I'm Arcui Usoara, a fractional CBO, a catalyst, a founder, facilitator, podcaster, author, a venture advisor, a dog lover and rescuer, and a lot of other things. But I'm someone who's constantly involved in making sure that I can create brand ecos. What I mean by ecos is ecosystems that actually work very well with each other and allow you as an individual, as a leader, to create businesses, to create impact that works so that everything you do, every decision you make, it's going towards a vision. It's going towards that vision. And vision is not just something, we're going to burst out like a fun statement so that investors are happy to pitch to us or we just sound different and everything. It needs to make sense. So we'll just go right into one of the models that I'll be introducing you guys to, which is called the concave vision. And sorry for the science lesson and everything. It's not going to be too much sciencey, but rather what we're going to do is this is one of the models we had devised for teaching founders to be more visionary. And if you're wondering why is vision important when it comes to growing and scaling up businesses, it's because if you have a clear idea in terms of how you're positioned and what your purpose is, it gives you a direction. And then if every decision you make is moving towards an aligned direction, then it's easy for you to grow and scale, but also it gives you a clear understanding and idea on how to market yourself, how to create AdWords, whatever it is. Like, let's that be putting yourself out in events like this or whatever it is. Every decision you make becomes a lot more clearer. You want product market fit, you'll understand what products you need to create, the market you need to penetrate in, and how you need to adapt and adjust to that market so that you can truly thrive in it. So the model over here is trying to showcase your core value, which is the tiny circle in the center of the whole concave mirror. The concave mirror is imagine every decision, everything that's going on in your business and everything that's going around, everything people tell you to do and everything. Now, every time you make a decision that truly aligns with your vision, it's going to come to the center and then it's going to align with your vision and then it's going to move clearly towards the ideal direction. And this is very important. If you're making decisions that make sense with what you want to achieve, then it allows you to go in that direction. Whereas if you're making decisions that don't make sense, if you're making decisions just because it's trendy and it's something or the other that others are doing or a competition or someone famous is doing, it doesn't matter. The aim of business is not to have a lot of numbers, but it's about having the right numbers. If you have, let's say, thousands of people who are coming in checking out your website, that's not enough. If you have thousands of followers on social media, let that even be millions, it doesn't matter if those are not your right audience. And your right audience will only come to you when they truly find something that aligns with them, something that works for them, something that helps them grow and scale. So you need to be very visionary about every decision you make, and you need to make sure everything you do, your missions, need to truly align with your company's vision and your personal vision. So I'm gonna readjust the term mission over here for a second. Think of it as a game. You know, in games we have a lot of missions. We, especially like if it's a action adventure game, there are missions we need to do to get to the next status. That's exactly what mission is. They are the things you need to do to get to your vision. So imagine your vision to be the peak of the mountain, and everything you need to do to get there are the different missions you need to take care of. And when you work backwards, if you know exactly where you need to be, you become very clear about all the things you need to do, all the decisions you need to make, all the challenges you need to overcome, all the factors you need to consider. And so having a clear vision is the first and most important foundation of having a scalable business. To find out how to market, find out how to grow, to get your audience. It's all about having a clear vision, because then you get the clarity on all the steps you need to take to get there. So with that, once I've introduced this model, and of course, if you have any questions, you can ask me. We are gonna get right into Q&A, because I don't want to take too much time explaining models over here. These models are important. These help you think in a different approach. And if anyone wants to take screenshots, please go ahead. You can take one right now. But once we're done with this, let's go into the main stuff. Let's go into why we are here. So I've introduced what it means to have a vision. I've told you about how you can scale a business. But I want to make sure I'm actually helping you guys. So what I want you all to do is start raising your hands, and whoever raises their hands, they kind of get lined up on top. So then I understand who I need to deal with first, who is going to come up on the stage. And anybody who raises their hands will come one-on-one over here. And then I'll actually have an interaction with you where you ask me questions in regards to what you want to know in terms of marketing, scaling, how you can, or whatever it is, whatever questions you have, how you can find product market fit, how you can scale it further, if you have revenue goals and everything, how you need to focus around it, whatever it is, feel free to reach out and ask. But all you have to do is ask me in very specificity, and ask me questions that actually matter the most to you. So yeah, with that, I'm going to start calling out people if not. But yeah, I'll just give you guys a minute. Please start raising your hands and ask me any and all questions you guys might have.
Okay, so I can see Deepa with her hand up. So if you guys can also use the button, I think it'll be easier for us to pinpoint, like under
Yes.
reactions. If you can,
Yeah, the button
Deepa, go
makes it
ahead.
easy. It kind of lines you up on top and everything. Then I can see you all as well, because there's so many people over here. But hey, Deepa, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good.
Um,
A bit down with
so
the cold, but yeah,
I hope you are okay.
yeah,
I was talking to like school teachers, like school administrators, like because I'm making school management system software. I was talking
yeah,
to school administrators, and I was talking to them about how professional development is needed for teachers. And
yeah,
I was talking to them like we are going to organize a free professional development program for teachers.
yeah,
And the principal said, actually don't do the free training kind of like that, then it will be the value will be gone, so put a price on it. He said that, but the thing is
yeah.
he's like from a elite private school teacher, principal. And now I'm thinking like I can't just cater to that elite private school, I have to cater to the middle class private school or government schools. And I'm a bit
Yes.
confused, should I do free workshop for teachers, or should I like put a price on it?
All right. So, firstly, it's all about understanding who is your ideal exact specific audience. At the end, your aim is to help all teachers and everything. But instead of looking at it as, if they're elite or not, are they willing to learn? Are they willing to actually take efforts and implement? So I'll give you an example. A lot of times you might have heard people say that I want to be just like Apple and everything. And the reason they say that is because they've seen them to be successful. But the thing is, a lot of people end up buying Apple products even if they don't necessarily have a need for it. But because it shows that, we are capable, it kind of adds to their status in one way or the other. In the same manner, learning and development is very crucial, especially in the world we are in right now, For teachers to be certified, aside from just having a basic degree or master's, they need a lot more. They need to be seen if they want to scale in their career as well. And of course, this is made for those teachers. At the end of the day, your product is going to be prioritized by those who actually see value in your product and who actually need it in terms of growing and actually bettering their impact on the students. So spend some time and first analyze exactly who are these teachers. If you think by doing this for the elite teachers and everything, the teachers who are actually interested and are willing to pay, creates a better impact, not just for them, but around the teachers and other institutes around you, that they're like, you know what, if they're doing it, I would like to have that done over here. And then exploring further down the road that, hey, Deepa, would you be open to doing this for free or a bit cheaper? Is a better conversation to have than trying to sell it for free to people who might not see the value in it right away. So first identify exactly who your exact audience is, who will first be more interested in investing their time and resources in learning from you, in learning what you are creating and everything. Because if they're not interested, if you're just speaking to people, then even the smartest person can be the dumbest moron if they're in a room where nobody values them. If I go and start talking about brand strategy in a bar, nobody's going to listen to me. They're just going to be like, why is this guy over here? We just want to dance. We just want to have a good time. Why can't he sing or something? Why is he here talking to us about brand strategy? So first identify who are these people. And then if it makes sense for you to either price your services and then make sure that, both the professional teachers who actually see the value in it are investing, and hence making it easier for small scale institutes and institutes that might not have the financial capability to seek you out, maybe get a discounted version or for free. That's much more better. Or is it easier for you to just go and give it for free and your audience will actually be invested with their time and efforts? So first identify that, the point of thinking where they're coming from, because it's all about understanding your user mindset. If your users are not the right people, then your vision won't be you won't be able to achieve your vision. You won't be able to get to the status. So you need to be very clear on who you're doing this for in the initial stages, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Of course. Yeah, are there any other questions from you?
Not right now.
All right, awesome. How about others? Are there any other questions from other people? Because I don't see any hands raised right now. It can be about anything. It can be about marketing, business goals, revenue distribution, however it is.
Does anyone have anything they want to ask?
All
I'm
right,
sure there
then
must be
so
more questions than that.
that's all right. I see Rajesh
Okay, I
has
can
raised
see
his hand.
Rajesh. All right.
All right.
Rajesh. All right.
Yeah.
So Rajesh, if you can switch on your
Rajesh, if
video,
you can switch on your video,
is it possible? Is it possible or you're not
is it
able
possible
to?
or you're not able to?
This is right? Hello.
Yeah. Okay. Why don't you ask the question? I think we got right.
Okay. So my question is how we can increase the branding if it was it.
There's a lot of noise.
Rajesh, maybe you can type your question in the chat.
No,
It's
it's just there's a lot of noise at once. Yeah.
anyone else wants to has a question to ask, you can raise your hand while
Yeah.
Rajesh is typing.
I mean, if you want, we can go through a couple of questions by yourself as well. If you're aware of what most questions, the students in your community currently have, then
Okay,
we can go through that. Yeah.
sure.
But yeah, I did
Okay, I
see.
think that go ahead. How can we increase branding with a limited budget?
All right. So,
That's a-
I'm assuming when you're talking about branding, you're talking about the visual identity, you're talking about the designs and everything. But the thing is, in branding, design is the last thing. That's the last thing you need to focus on. That is just a representation of whoever you are and however you need to be defined and exhibited as at the external perception. It's actually a representation of who you are internally. So if you have very good clarity on who you are, your values, how you need to be positioned, who you're actually marketing your services for, who are you actually trying to impact, and everything else in terms of your positioning. Once you can become very clear on that, which is more about internal discussions, then you'll be very clear also in terms of what kind of branding you need to focus on in terms of your identity that is going to be represented, let that be the verbal identity, the visual identity, or anything else. So start by identifying exactly who these things are for, and then prioritize the ones that matter the most. So let's say in your case, because I do remember talking to you about this last time, in your case, it would be more focused in terms of branding, in terms of merchandise, product design, as well as, overall ecosystem design. Whereas when you collaborate with buses and everything, or any other travel transport down the road, it would be good to have your branding over there. But early on, your main focus should be where are people first going to engage and interact with you. So prioritize on that and get a clear guideline design first. If you can design a specific guideline, your identity, the visual parts of it obviously need to be representative of who you are. They need to be very authentically designed, and they need to obviously speak to your audience in a very unique format while also defining who you are. But the design part of it comes at the very end. Or else we're always stuck with, reiterating designs based upon trends or whatever if you don't have a clear strategy. So first focus on that. Once you have a clear understanding of that part, see what needs to be designed and design to communicate. Then you can get any designer, anybody who's skilled enough and everything, and then just start by focusing on things that are actually needed for your business instead of trying to create things that might not be required for you right now. Because that's something a lot of businesses do, that they start creating identities for social media and everything, and all of these different factors, but they don't have a dedicated marketing team. They don't have a dedicated personas creator or individuals who are actually creating a strategy for that. So creating marketing for social media doesn't make sense for them if that is not going to be executed. So try to first identify where your attention needs to be, where people are going to engage with you first, and based upon your brand guidelines, see how you can communicate your brand. Yeah.
Okay, thanks a lot for that really great answer, Arcui. So I think a question that a lot of the founders usually have is, how do you set growth targets or growth milestones for
Yeah.
your company? Like
Yes.
what kind of targets should you set, and how should you measure it, and what can you use to track it?
Yeah, absolutely. So the biggest thing that I always talk to founders about when it comes to defining growth targets and exactly how they need to set them up is by first breaking down what is their vision. And that's one of the main reasons I actually spoke about vision when we started. Because once you have a clarity on your vision, vision is something you can't achieve within 1 year. If you're able to achieve it within 1 year, then that's just a mission. A vision is something much more greater than what you visualize your business to be right now. And so once you're clear about your vision, you'll know all the different things. You just need to start working back. You need to start asking yourself, like, hey, what do I need to do before this? What do I need to do before this? And so start going backwards and see, based upon your team's caliber, your understanding of the markets, as well as who all you need to involve yourself with in terms of, like, if you don't have a team yet, who all do you need to hire and everything? Who are the people you need to onboard? What are the markets? What are the platforms you need to consider and put your, just overall investments in terms of time, resources, as well as money, and then see how these can best be achieved. So let's say if you have a financial goal of reaching 10 million. Now, for some businesses, this is something they can achieve within 3 to 5 years. For some businesses, it takes a lot more longer. But when you have a clear strategy, like we were talking to one of our clients today, she's a coach and she coaches people in terms of basic lifestyle and how they can both manage their work as well as life better. And her clarity on her audience was more important than anything else, because she wanted to aim for $500,000. And that she felt was something that she would have to struggle for at least the next 8 to 7 years. But if you're very clear on what you need to be, but also who are you doing this for, who your audience is. So in her case, we ended up niching down to identifying these to be women executive leaders who are actually going to be making decisions about not just their company scaling, exits, but also in terms of their own personal life, relaxing, settling down, and everything else. Because for them, this is something they struggle with because they've always prioritized their work, but they never really had the chance to prioritize their well-being and their own personal life and everything. So when we niche down to who these users are, what is their mindset, what are their challenges, but also what are their day-to-days and how much are they willing to invest in this what are you enabling for these users, then you become clear about the goals. And so for her, now to get to $500,000 was something she could achieve within the next 2 quarters to 3 quarters, because all she had to do was get 9 women leaders who are willing to pay about $5,000 a month for the next 12 months. And she was easily able to make 5,000, what am I saying? $540,000. That is how easily you can define your goals. But to be able to define your goals, the timelines and everything, because now if she wanted, she could only focus for the next 9 months to only get one person every month, or she could hire someone who can get her 3 people every month, and then within a quarter, she'd have all the people she'd require, get them on retainers. But it's all about identifying where you need to be, how you need to get there, as well as defining what all you need to do. If you're not changing yourself for the goals you're trying to achieve, then you will never be able to get there, and you'll always look at them as dreams. You'll always think that these goals are way out of your league. To get to big goals, you need to change fundamentally all the things you stand for, the values you bring in, and everything you're prioritizing. So if you can change those aspects, then you can truly start defining and take the right actionable steps. You're on mute.
I'm mute. I didn't realize that. So I just want to say that was a great answer. So I think with all the founders that you worked with, what have you seen as being like maybe the top 3 things that they can do to increase their goal? Like, what are the top 3 tactics that you would suggest for founders to focus on?
So I've never really been a tactical person who tries to give tactics and everything. But one of the 3 things I always think every founder needs to do, especially if they're trying to grow and scale, is one, create a strong brand culture. Create a strong culture within your team. If your team truly aligns with you, if they stand by you, and if they actually see and resonate with you, and you're actually doing things not just for scaling your business, because a lot of times you come across founders at events and everything who think that to get to $1 billion, it's just over hiring, over firing, and just constantly doing that. That's not the right way to go. If you're doing that, it's costing you a lot more in time, efforts, and a lot more in terms of, just your overall goal is being delayed. But rather focus on defining your strong brand culture, how authentically you can create one, and how it is defined to actually cultivate a strong relationship with your team. Secondly, it's about having a clear foundation. If you have a strong foundation, let that be with your co-founder, with your team, whatever it is, whoever it is with. If you have a strong foundation and you're set with that, that's how you can grow. If you're constantly diversifying, just like with New Year's and everything, a lot of times people say, New Year, the year has started, so we're going to reset our goals, we're going to focus on new things. It's not about that. It's about being very clear on the aspects you need to do. And with every time things come by and go, it's not about restarting, but rather bettering it further. So if you don't reach your goals, it doesn't mean that you keep changing everything. You first identify and analyze exactly what has happened, what you need to do over here, and then you go and focus on whether it needs to be changed, whether it needs to be shifted, or whether you need to just go on about it, because sometimes all you have to do is compound. And lastly, it's about being in a market that is right for you. You don't want to be in a market that you think is profitable or trendy. This is something a lot of my investor friends keep talking to me about. That uh, last year they invested so much in AI companies and everything, and now they're not going anywhere because they've hit their threshold, because they don't know how to scale these companies further. You need to have a clear vision, and to have that vision, you need to be in the right market. If your personal vision doesn't align with your company's, then you stop wanting to be a part of that company. You'll only look at it as a profit machine, and every time you don't see it hit the profits, you'll be more detached from it. You need to be in businesses that are more accompanied to your vision in terms of what you want to do, what you want to create. It should be purposeful thinking. And the more aligned you are with those things, with everything you do. Because for me, like, I run my agency, I consult companies, I rescue dogs, and everything I do, it's very much aligned with who I am and what I want to create in the world. And so I don't feel detached from the work I do. I'm rather more and more excited every day to show up at events, to do more talks, to work with different clients. I sometimes jump from Zoom meeting to Zoom meeting to a different challenge, and I talk to different companies. They introduce me to their current problems, and that excites me. But if this is not for someone, they wouldn't want to do this. So have a clear definition of who you are as a founder and do you fit the market? Because if you don't, your product's never going to fit there. So yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I
Yeah.
think you said a lot of like really great points and found a fit and
Yeah.
and how like how the founder needs to be a fit and really relate to what they're doing.
Yeah.
So Joseph has a question, but
Sure.
I just want to just do a follow-up question to something. So you spoke about how the founder and the team, right? How about translating that to the team? But we also have some very early stage founders in this program who will listen to you talk and saying, well, what he's saying is not relevant for me because I don't have a team. Like, it's just me right now. And I'm just trying to like, get started and, raise that initial traction amount. So that I'll
Yeah.
be attractive enough to get my first funding round, right?
Yeah.
So any advice for that sort of a founder who doesn't have a team?
If you don't have a
If you have
team,
anything.
that's all right. Like I've seen a lot of businesses scale up and everything and never have a team. But it's again about having clear principles about defining what you're doing over here. And at the end of the day, and I know this might sound a bit redundant and everything, but your company is not here just to make money. That's a reward. That's what you're getting for doing the business. But what are you doing this for? What are your priorities? And not just with your company, but what are your personal priorities? If you're very clear about these things, then you are making better decisions and everything. You need to kind of constrain yourself a bit, and you need to be the first person to follow this brand culture that you're creating. Because if you keep constantly putting yourself in places which is a negative culture, even if you don't have a team, then when you do hire a team, you expect them to follow into that. You get frustrated when they don't follow into those bounds and everything. Like me as a founder, I give a lot of vacations to my teammates. And like last year, we hit our goals by March, then we completed all the projects by September. And then we had a couple of things going on. So from December to this year, March, they're on a vacation. And the reason I did that is because I want to make them feel that, you know what, you guys did a great job this year. And while we are working and we're still talking about a couple of things, one of my teammates is leaving so that she can start her own company. I'm here to actually help cultivate them, help them grow. So you need to be very defined about why you're here and what are you trying to do in this company. Because you're your first employee, you're your first user. So if you can start being very strict with yourself and create clear priorities and boundaries, that helps you not just lose out on your personal life, on your you never let things border in. Because here's one thing, just like how this is a psychological concept and some of you might be aware of it, but we go through different stages through our life, and it's not just teenage and adulthood and everything, but there are different stages that we go through from being a baby and everything. There are different areas, but the thing is, when you start a business, you're a newborn once again, because you're in a different perspective of life and you're looking at things differently. Your first year of business, you're still figuring stuff out. Your third year of business, you're still dealing with things as a teenager and everything. You're trying to compare, you're trying to compete, you're getting jealous by others and everything. So the one thing that people end up forgetting is that you're two beings at one time. You're both a founder and a person, and they both are merging together. And so you don't want your frustrations of work to come here. Neither you want your personal life to take completely away from your business. That is the end goal, but you don't want that to happen when you're trying to grow. So you need to be very clear about understanding, are you ready to get into business? What do you need to focus? What are your priorities? And how can you go about doing this? And some of you might think that, oh yeah, he's saying this because he's figured it all out. Initially, he must have done the same thing that he's preaching against right now. But no, I've always worked 40 to 50 hours a month. I've always kept these things because by setting these constraints, I've been able to prioritize what should be my focus. Where should my attention go and everything? Where should I be spending more of my time and energy on? And it helps you get rid of things that are not needed. So keep in mind in terms that even if you don't have a team, you do have a culture, and your culture starts with you first. Yeah.
Okay. So I think that's really useful. So it's so yourself, your culture, and your brand and your company, they all need to be aligned, right? Right. So
Your
that
brand
makes a
is
lot of
everything.
sense.
Your brand is all of these things. It's not the identity, it's not the logo. Like people talk more about my company because they know me. And I didn't have a logo until this year. I was just like, let me just make something for the sake of it. But I didn't have a logo until this year. But people started working with my agency, let that be the clients or the people we hired. They came to us because they trusted me, and they trusted in terms of the culture I create, the way I treat them. So it's all about that. Your branding first starts with your culture, and then that culture is rather represented through these visual identities and everything.
Okay. Okay, so
Yeah.
that's great. So I'm going to go to Joseph's question. What key
Yeah.
performance indicators do you suggest for tracking to measure the success of our brand strategy in an unregulated environment?
Community-led growth. That is something you need to focus on. Because obviously success is going to be different for you. Like for you, it might be monetary. For you, it might be, if you're trying to raise rounds, it might be to show investors pre-revenue how many users are interested in everything. But regardless of anything, it's about having a community-led growth approach. What that means is anytime someone is interested in your product, anytime you have audiences that are willing to, experiment with you, actually join you, and that only happens when you start to build with them, not just for them. So stop assuming in the current world, people work on merit. So stop assuming that this solution works for everyone because you might have seen it work for someone, or you're assuming that it can't solve problems, but rather start building with your users. Because even if you have a small user group, let's say there's a market of 10,000 people and you have a user group of 500 to maybe 1,000 people, if you're actually solving for their requirements by building with them, understanding what they need, what are the challenges they're facing, then you don't just come to define all the key KPIs and everything you need to structure, all the aspects you need to develop, all the features you need to have in terms of your business, your products and services, but rather you build loyalty, you facilitate belongingness, you cultivate a deeper trust, which makes them stick around. So instead of having one-time customers, you're having a loyal customer audience base who's actually going to stick with you, who's going to recommend you, and which is something you can actually use to show investors, markets, use for crowdfunding, whatever it is you're doing to actually scale your businesses. I've seen individuals scale their bootstrap businesses more seamlessly by building with their community. And we see this a lot with SaaS founders nowadays. They open up Discord communities. And while that is not completely it, that shows that, if you have so many users who are not just giving up their emails for a wait list and everything, but rather joining a community, learning what's going on, building with them, adding contributions and whatnot, you're building a strong user base that is actually dedicated to be here. And so when you do launch something that is very much tailored and focused to their requirements, you don't have to worry about the market because you already have found your users and they're ready to buy from you because you have built something for them. You understand their requirements, but finally, because you've spent so much time building with them, you also understand how much they can afford, what is the right pricing models and everything else. And your pricing also comes in key. And so you won't come up with prices that your users might not actually be able to afford, but rather you'll have the key pricing models that will work very well that your users will automatically be ready to buy into, not just with your subscriptions, but what kind of models you need to follow, how they need to be distributed and everything else. And this helps you not just fund your business, sustain it, but if you want to raise funding and everything, you can show this to investors that, hey, I don't just have interest, I have people already investing with me. So that's the most important thing.
Okay, so I think because it's investor pitch review next week, I think this is a really important question to ask. So what's the best way for founders to communicate their growth progress and setbacks to investors?
So firstly, I have worked with a lot of investors, and they are not just here to give you money and take money from you. A lot of times we end up feeling that, but most of the time investors actually consider investing in you, and it's more like the Shark Tank USA. That's how it's actually done, not the ones we see nowadays with different parodies and ripoffs and everything. But if you actually look at investors, they're here to help you, they're here to work with you, and the best way you can actually help them help you is by being as honest, accountable, and clear about what you need to do next. They know that initially you might not have the perfect plan. That's why investors hire people like me. A lot of times, my investors reach out to me and be like, hey, Arcui, we invested in a company. While they have a great product, they don't know how to scale it. And they're lacking a clear vision or they're lacking a clear brand foundation. They bring me on, but they need to know what you need help with. They need to know where they can best guide you because they're not here to spoon feed you everything that you don't require. You also don't want that. You don't want your investors to butt into things that are not needed for you. but you need to be very honest and specific about, hey, I need help over here. I can figure out, let's say you can figure out marketing if you know exactly what you need to market. You can build out the right features if you have a user base. You're having trouble penetrating a market. Maybe you're not figuring out which social media platform is right for you, or maybe you're not understanding how your messaging needs to be right. So you need to be very clear about where you need help. Because when you go to investors and you're just like, okay, sales are down, I don't know what to do, they won't know what to do. They have multiple companies. So be very specific. Don't just report things, but understand what needs to be reported. Understand how you can grow. They're investing in you and they want to keep investing in you so that they can get a successful exit. But they're here to help you grow. For them, that is their business. Investors, like how our business is to get customers, for investors, their business is to educate companies and help them. They invest in companies. You are their users. And so you need to tell them, hey, this is where I need help. Can you help me out? And they'll bring on an expert, or if they are the experts in that, they'll make some time with you. And then when you give them detailed reports, it makes it easier for them to look at them and be like, you know what, I see the problem right here. And I've been there, like investors send me reports which are very detailed, and I can just be like, the moment they open the screen with the person and they open the document, I can read it and understand that, yeah, you're spending a lot of your budget over here, whereas your focus should be on something else altogether. And they realize that this is something we didn't know. But by having clear reports, it makes it very easier for whoever they're bringing on or however they're helping you. So be very authentic, be accountable, and stop lying. I've had investors tell me that, one of their companies went under or that they're shutting down and they had to find out via social media instead of this company coming and telling it to them. So don't lie to them, but be there so that they can help you and pick a good investor. This is one thing. It's like picking a co-founder. They are going to be part of your company, and of course, you can't get rid of them that easily and everything. That is one thing, unlike other employees and all. But you need to pick investors who align with your vision, who prioritize things, and who actually are not going to try to change your vision. But when you pick someone, make sure you actually use their help. They're not just here to pay the bill, they're here to help you grow. But you need to be ready to take their help and be able to help them so that they can help you.
All right. So I think that was a great answer for that question, because it's true. Like, I think even though founders don't realize it, actually, integrity is and honesty is one of the most like, if not the most valued trait. Like, it doesn't matter even if you're like growing fast, if you don't have like integrity or honesty, like, they don't want to invest with you, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we have room for a couple more questions. So next one is what kind of growth do investors expect to see? Like, when they're talking to a founder, what kind of growth do they expect to see? How can the founders communicate that clearly? Like, what kind of metrics do they need to do investors expect to see from them? Like, what kind of metrics do they need to show, and how much growth do they expect?
So more than just growth, it's also about understanding burn rate, because they need to see how you're distributing your funds. They need to see how much are you burning through cash, but also what is the ROI, not just on their overall investment, but at each investment round and everything. Sometimes you'll be promised capital, and until you meet a certain goal, then they won't release the rest of the funds. So they need to see how are you defining these things. What are your main goals? So every time you get an investment, before that they ask you a couple of questions, such as, okay, so what will you do with our money? They need to understand that. And then they'll ask you, how will you break that down? So once you break down your clear goals, but each company is going to be different. If it's a CPG company and that is currently already thriving in one particular country, and they're trying to, just expand further into different countries and all, then for them it will be about how they can find better distributors, shipping, and everything else, the logistic parts. So they will need to know how you're going to go about doing that, how you're going to not just reduce the burn rate, but also reduce your overall cost for development and increase your profit margins and everything. So how are you going about these things? Secondly, it will be about how are you building your user base and everything, because you don't want to enter a country, launch your products, get everything sorted, but if your audience doesn't exist there, then it's of no point again. So with every company, every product, every area that you're entering, there are going to be different factors you need to consider. The aim is, don't go into different approaches if they don't make sense for you. So first start by identifying, where are you headed? Where do you need to be? if it's about helping more people, if it's about making your product more available, see what you need to do. Define those things very clearly and keep breaking it down. Make it so that it's you have for every one step there are 5 sub steps, and for every sub step there are at least 10 micro steps that you need to take. By doing that, you're giving yourself tickets, challenges that you can overcome, tasks you need to get done and everything. But also you're letting investors know that these are going to be our priority. And then you get to have conversations with them and be like, you know what? Don't focus on this, focus on these other things. You can have conversations to see if that is the right thing for you to do. But by doing this, you get to define where you need to be, how you can actually go about executing on these things, and never jump in blind. Never jump in blind into a resource or an approach because you see someone else doing it or you hear about them. You need to do a lot of due diligence. You need to see if these people can actually serve you. Like one of our clients and everything, they were manufacturing their products from China. And then when the products came to them, they were not at all of the quality that they were expecting it to be because they just heard someone else do the same thing. So you need to do proper due diligence. You need to invest proper amount of time to understand that if I spend this much time and this is what I'm expecting from you, here's what all I'll require from you. Here's how we can actually make sense of things and how we'll actually be able to determine success. So obviously with each investor, you can't have a specific thing. It's going to change with each investor, each product, each service, whichever company you're in, what stage you're in and everything. That's why we have different series and all, because with each series, they expect different things. At pre-seed, they just expect you to make the model function. At seed, they expect you to show that, what, you're actually able to take this model somewhere. Series A, it's about scaling. Series B is about amplifying your brand and so forth. So you need to better understand what is this money for, where do you need the help with, and what are you trying to achieve over here? So yeah.
Okay. So it's 8:15. So Arcui, I'm gonna ask one last question, right?
Sure. If anybody else
Um,
also has any questions, like like me and Ayami are spending time, but if anybody else has any questions, feel free to raise their hand or put them into chats. But yeah.
all right. Okay. So this is the common question that founders really struggle with, right?
Yeah.
So you built your prototype or your MVP, right?
Okay.
And you launched it. It's in the market. You're trying to gain traction and growth, right? So based on what you're seeing, right? How do you decide whether you should stop doing what you're doing, right? Based on the results. Like, so how do you know? Like, should I stop doing this? Should I continue with this because it's going well or it's going well enough?
Yeah.
Like, or how do I know that I should pivot it? So what kind of like growth or what kind of growth should you see, or what kind of growth are you not seeing that you should choose one of those three?
Yeah.
Continue, pivot, stop.
Yes.
How do
So
you
for
decide?
this, what I always say for this is before you go into data, spend some time with your customers. And this is why community-led growth really helps you out as well. Because if you can actually understand you customer friction, where are they dropping off from? What are their challenges with your products? Why are they not onboarding? Because it might not be that your product is not a right fit, but rather your product's pricing is wrong. Sometimes if your pricing is too low or too high, your customers might be like, okay, I don't trust this, or this is too much for me to invest because I'm not there yet. So first start by identifying and determining who your customers are and what are you trying to do. So one good thing is doing user research. And if you can do this even before you launch, it's always great. Because this is why I talk a lot about community-led growth and everything. Because when you build a product with your customers, you're not just launching blindly into a saturated market with a pre-existing solution that is just slightly tweaked and everything, but you're building a product that is actually going to solve problems. It might already exist as a tool somewhere else, but the way you have tweaked it slightly and the way you have positioned it helps solve a different niches, different problems. So first start by spending time with your users. And before you launch, spend some time with beta testing, identifying where do they need help, how does this solve that, what are their points of friction. So right now we are working on a mental health app, and we spend so much time with psychologists, not just with the customers, but with psychologists to better understand how can we develop this product? What are going to be their points of friction? How are they going to engage with this in their ecosystem, in their day-to-day activities and everything? So you need to see how your product is going to be utilized, what are going to be some of the challenges, and the less assumptions you have, the easier you can scale it. And so that gives you all the clarity required in terms of identifying, okay, maybe I need to pivot, maybe I need to tweak these things a bit, maybe I need to get rid of certain features and everything. So to get there, you just need to spend some time with your users. Stop depending on data of past or that already exists, but rather create the right data by spending some time with your customers and ask more questions. See where do they need help? What are their challenges and everything? Why are they struggling over here? What is making them want to adapt to our product? What is making them want to drop out? And if you're doing this for the right market, so yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I think that's extremely good advice. So it's 8:19. I know Arcui has another meeting at 8:20. So we definitely need to wrap up. So Arcui, thank you very much for coming and doing this session. So our founders tend to be on the quiet side. I remember telling you this when you came from the bonus office.
Yeah, last time it was much more fun. I'm like, why you guys are talking? I need you guys to speak more. Yeah.
No, I think the bonus office hour is just a little bit more relaxed. Like this is like a marathon long session that they just come for 1 hour, right? So
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
And there's still more to go. So thank you very much for coming and giving your time, right? I
Yeah.
really appreciate it. You shared a lot of very insightful knowledge on marketing and growth. And one thing I love about you is that you focus really on the founder fit and the brand and the company, which a lot of people ignore, right? Like they just focus on the nitty-gritty of logos and this and all that. But I feel like you take a very holistic approach, which is very good for early stage founders, because if they start off right, it'll be there for the entire life of the company, right? Okay, so thank you very much for coming. We're going to move on to the next segment. So so thank you so much. And
thank you, Arami, for having me at the Founders Institute.
On one of our future session.
Yes.
All right, bye.
Bye.
All right.